Hello everyone, I'm Ankit and you're watching StudyIQ English. As you can understand, today this video goes live at 9 p.m. So there's a possibility that by the time you're watching this video, President Putin might already be in India. So what is the significance of President Putin's visit to India this time? We'll understand this in our today's discussion. Now, as usual, you understand the notes of this session will be available on a particular Telegram channel, which is called as ATS Live. So you can go to there, download it. And while you're at it, please do not forget to subscribe to this channel also. Okay, so let us understand the context of our today's discussion. The context of our today's discussion is that this time President Putin is coming to India on the invitation of Indian Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi for the annual or 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit. Now, this summit is very significant, or this visit in particular in 2025 is very significant. Why? Because he's coming to India after 4 years, and for the first time he's coming to India after the breakout of Russia-Ukraine war. Now, this talks which will be held between these two respective leaders, it would stretch to many issues on the issues of trade, defense, exploring cooperations on small modular reactor, and also other technological aspects. So, let us start our today's discussion, and before that, let us first understand in what broader geopolitical significance or what broader geopolitical context this visit is going to happen. And let us go back in time as precise as 25 years back. Because for the first time, when President Putin arrived into India in the year 2000, at that time he was very initially in his office of president, and at that time Indian Prime Minister was Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who was also very new in the office of Prime Minister. Now, in 2000, both of these countries were facing significant disadvantage. As you can understand, before 2000, that was in 1990s only, for the first time, Soviet Russia or USSR, it got disintegrated. And because of that disintegration, the Russia that emerged was a very weak nation. On the other hand, India was facing Western sanctions after it conducted nuclear tests in the Pokhran. So that is why in 2000, both of these countries were very weak and insignificant. But 25 years later, in 2025, things have changed drastically. What has not changed is the deep relations between these two countries. But what has changed is that Russia is facing sanction, and India is also under pressure because US has imposed significant tariffs on India because India is importing higher amounts of crude oil. But except all of these things, everything has changed. Why? In 2025, India has amended its relationship with the entire Western bloc. India cooperates with Western bloc on issues like security, issues like defense ties, issues like trade, issues like technological cooperation. So in all, India has become more closer to West as it was before in 2000. On the other hand, Russia is diplomatically as well as economically isolated from the West because of its Russia-Ukraine war. And because of this diplomatic and economic isolation, Russia is under pressure, and Russia, trying to do away with this pressure, is trying to mend its relationship, deepen its relationship with both India and China in order to prove that Western sanctions and isolation is not working on them. So that is why both of these countries have faced something very different in the year 2025, and this is the significance, or this is the context in which we should study the present visit of President Putin. Okay, so let us understand for the first time why India is so important for Russia. As I told you, Russia is under significant economic pressure, and this is because of Western sanctions. So earlier, Russian products which were freely available in European markets, now Russia can't do that. So it is exploring alternative opportunities, and for that, India becomes very important. India, on one hand, is a highly and the most populous nation in the country. It has a booming economy which grows annually at the rate of 7 to 8%. Similarly, India also is a very open market and is trying to look to open its market. So India now becomes an economic alternative for Russia. Indian markets, which are huge, filled of young people, Russia is looking to provide and sell goods and services in Indian markets. So this is the first requirement of Russia. Second requirement of Russia is, of late, because of the Russia-Ukraine war, as Russia faced sanctions, so India has started import of more and more Russian crude oil because of its cheap nature. Now the consequence of this more import of crude oil is that the share of Russian crude oil in the India's total oil imports have increased from earlier 2.5% to now 35%. And because of this increased import of crude oil, India has faced economic sanctions and increased tariff from countries like US. So India is confused right now whether it should reduce Russian oil imports or it should increase Russian oil imports, or at least maintain the same level which was few months before. So Russia wants to assure India, it wants to lock in India's greater market as far as the imports of crude oil is concerned. So this is why India becomes important in the economic dimension for Russia. Now let us talk about the other dimension, which is the import dependence of India based on Russian arms and ammunition. Now Russia for long has been the biggest arms importer as far as India is concerned, right? Sorry, arms exporter to India. Now Russian arms export in the recent times have fallen significantly because India is trying to look to diversify its imports, right? Now in that matter, Russia faces many challenges. First of all, India is the single most important export markets for India, and Russia also, because of the Russia-Ukraine war, has faced pressure when it comes to meeting the export commitments that it has already made. So much so that India procured as many as 5 squadrons of S-400 anti-defense or anti-aircraft systems from Russia. But because of the economic sanctions, because of the war pressures, Russia till today has only been able to deliver 3 of these 5 squadrons. So Russia wants to assure India that whatever you procure from us will try to meet the deadlines as soon as possible. Similarly, in this visit, Russia also wants to sell more additional defense equipments, that is more S-400 units. Possibly Russia is even looking to sell India newer S-500 units as well as the 5th generation fighter aircraft, that is Su-57. Similarly, there is a potential order that might also come from India for its upgradation of Sukhoi 30 MKI aircraft. So this is the defense imperative. Why India remains so special for Russia. Third is the broader geopolitical signaling. As I told you, Russia has been diplomatically and economically isolated by the West due to Russia-Ukraine war. And to counter that, Russia is increasing its interactions and deepening its existing relationship with both India and China. Now, what signal does it show? It shows that Russia is trying to prove that Western sanctions aren't as effective as they are meant to be. On the other hand, Russia is signaling that the world has changed from being unipolar after the end of Cold War to the present polarity, that is multipolarity. That Russia, Ukraine are already the poles, but now newer poles have emerged, which are India and China. So this is the strategic signaling from Putin's side that US is not the sole power, there are emerging powers. And whatever isolation you have thought you will work on us, but it is not working because Russia has deepened its relationship with India and China, right? So this is why India remains so important for Russia. Now let us think in the opposite direction. Why Russia is so important for India? Now you need to understand, for long India's foreign policy has favored non-alignment. Now this non-alignment has become strategic autonomy. India wants to increase its approachment with West, but at the same time India wants to maintain the comfort level that it shared with Russia. So because of this Western pressure to reduce the import of Russian crude oil, for the long period of time, India's exercise of strategic autonomy was under pressure. So India said that yes, we will maintain our dialogue with Russia, but for sure we won't compromise this dialogue mechanism that we have with Russia in light of Western sanction. And for long, India and other Western blocs like European ambassador, they have tried to create pressure on India in order to incentivize them to reduce the Russian crude oil. So it is a political test for the Indian government. It is the political test on the leadership of Narendra Modi ji. It shows that yes, India won't abandon the Russia, but at the same time, India would have to ensure that the West aren't negatively impacted by it. India has to show to the West that they remain committed in balancing its relationship with the West as against balancing its relationship with Russia. So this is the strategic autonomy, how India will exercise. Second aspect is the defense realities and vulnerabilities. Yes, for the past 1 decade or so, India has tried to reduce its reliance on Russian-based arms and equipments. But counter to that, you also have to understand many arms and equipment that we have already procured, we need to upgrade them, we need to maintain them, we need to retrofit them. And for that, Russia's cooperation becomes very important because as much as 60% of our present defense equipment, they are of Russian origin. In order to upgrade them, in order to retrofit them, in order to maintain them, we need Russian cooperation. Similarly, during the recent conflict that we had with Pakistan, Operation Sindoor, the most important platforms that gave us a military edge over Pakistan were Russian platforms. Remember the use of S-400 against the aircrafts and missiles that were sent by Pakistan. Remember the use of BrahMos, which were fired from Russian origin Sukhoi M30 aircraft. This gave us a decisive edge in this conflict. So much so that we were able to bomb the entire airbase of Pakistan, so much so that they were not even able to operate them for few days and weeks after the conflict. So this happened why? Because we had an edge which gave us, or which came in front of us, because of Russian made origin aircrafts. Similarly, there is a big change that is happening in Indian subcontinent. China has already developed 2 5th generation fighter aircraft. They are in process of developing 6th generation fighter aircraft. And there is also possibility that not so long away from now, Pakistan will also possess one of these Chinese origin 5th generation fighter aircraft. But India at present does not have any 5th generation fighter aircraft. Yes, it is trying to develop its own AMCA. But in order to fill this gap from the time of present till the time it procures and develops its own AMCA, India needs its own 5th generation fighter aircraft. And one of the alternative has come, that is the Russian origin Sukhoi 57 aircraft, right? So India is looking for a 5th generation aircraft, and the only country who's willing to provide it to India is none other than Russia. So this is why, because of our vulnerabilities, Russia remains important for us. The third vulnerability, let us talk about, is the trade imbalance and export underdevelopment. As I told you, after the Russia-Ukraine conflict, we have increased the imports of Russian crude oil. Now, the consequence of this increased import is that the trade that is between Russia and India has become imbalanced in favor of Russia, which has created a big trade deficit as far as India is concerned. Now, India is looking to bridge this deficit. How? It is trying to export more and more items into Russia, but our penetrativeness in the Russian market remains low. So what India wants right now is to diversify its trade with Russia away from oil and defense equipments. It is trying to seek greater access for its goods and services in the market. And it's trying to develop a trade and payment mechanism that survives future sanctions if it might be imposed on either Russia or India, right? So this is what India wants in the present scenario from Russia. Now, what are the key issues that we should watch in this present talks that might held between the PM of India, Narendra Modi, and the President of Russian Federation, that is Vladimir Putin? First is what kind of strategic signaling both of these leaders sent. Whether they want to balance the optics, or whether Russia would want to go all out in order to signal best that they are not isolated from India. And let us see what Indian politicians or Indian government is looking to do. Whether India would mend its broken ties with West by trying to move away from Russian dependence, or India would try to balance this, right? This is what remains to be seen. Similarly, another question that India has, that should it reduce the amount of crude oil imports that come from Russia under Western sanction? Doing so would mean that our relationship with West would improve, but not doing so would mean that India would lose out on potentially cheaper crude oil from Russia, right? The third point is the defense deliveries. Now, I told you there is a possibility that India might want to get the existing S-400 units which it has ordered at an earlier date. But there is also possibility that India might give new orders of S-500 or even increase orders of S-400. And what if India procures the Sukhoi 57 fighter aircraft, which would also bring questions of whether it is possible to make these fighter aircrafts in India, that is pushing the government's agenda of Make in India. Similarly, the other question that we should, how should India diversify its market? Should India seek access for its pharmaceutical products, agricultural products, electronics or automotive parts, which are key export products of India, which goes in other countries? Similarly, there is also possibility that both of these countries might sign a skilled labor agreement. As I told you, India is one of the world's most populous countries, and India is in the middle of demographic dividend. So there is a possibility that Russia, which faces labor shortage, it might want to bring certain skilled laborers from India to want and to man its own industry. So these are the important points that we should look, and if there's something important, we'll do a separate video on this topic. Okay. Now, before ending the today's discussion, let me tell you a very important thing. Now, what I just discussed forms a core part of international relations. But other than international relations, there are many different important subjects from UPSC also: polity, economy, history, geography, internal security. All of these topics are covered in great detail in our Resolution Plus batches. These are available for both students who are looking to give exams in 2027 as well as 2028. But before making the payment, please keep one thing in mind. If you use the code ATS Live, you will get maximum discounts on all our courses, right? And the sale which is ongoing right now would continue till 7th of December. So please hurry up. You will get the best rates as possible, but only after you apply the code ATS Live. Okay. So with this, I take your permission. There is also practice question that you can solve. This is an exact question that appeared in UPSC prelims in the year 2024. How many of these three aircrafts are considered as fifth generation aircrafts? Please do let me know the correct answer in the comment section. And what do you think? Should India mend its relationship with West, or should India try to continue and maintain the deeper relationship that it already has with Russia? Please do let me know in the comment section. And if you want to download the notes, they will be made available on a particular Telegram channel that is called as ATS Live. Yes, and I forgot. There's also mains question, a practice question which you can attempt to write. If you face any problem, you know where to ask me the doubts. This is this very Telegram channel, ATS Live. You can also scan the QR code for the same. Okay. So this is all from my side. Please have a very good night, and we'll see each other again, same place, same time at 9 p.m. Okay. Please have a very good night.